Hello everybody and welcome to iPoseidon Craft. This is iPoseidon How To, and in this episode I'm going to show you how to make custom trees. Not like the boring trees you see behind me that the game spawns, no offense Minecraft developers, but we're gonna make some of our own. So I've got a little piece of wood of every single one of wood types, all the 6 major overworld wood types, and then I have a chest full of a bunch of botanical stuff that we will use to kind of accent the trees and get creative with them. So let's get started with some of the different things that we want to do. Over my time making custom trees, I've kind of learned that there are 3 categories of trees that I like to make. Those are small trees, large trees, and simple trees. And what simple trees are essentially just typically straight trees that go up very high or very low, and then you just build the leaves around that one single trunk. So for small trees, we're going to stick to some fences. I'm going to make one out of oak, and then let's use one maybe out of dark oak. And do we have spruce in here as well? I know we have spruce somewhere. There's spruce. For the leaves, my favorite one to use are the spruce leaves. I'm not sure what it is exactly about them, but I just really love the way they look on a lot of different trees. We're also going to use a little bit of oak just to have a little bit of diversity, because we don't have to limit ourselves to just one leaf type to each tree. And then after that, we're going to start looking at some of these other options to see if they can make our tree any better. Small trees really aren't that difficult to make. You just kind of start off by giving it a little bit of a base, and now remember, they're small, so they're kind of thin, and they have a lot of branches, so you want to kind of start pulling some things out, and you want to make the branches hang a little bit, make a tree kind of feel like it's actually growing, like it's trying to reach the sun. It depends on what you kind of really want exactly. Like this one's going to give me a nice little canopy. I'm building a small little tree that will have a lot of branches that kind of spread out a lot and are able to have a larger top. So then I'm just going to start dropping all of the leaves onto it, and now I have 2 different kinds of leaves, so I will switch it up in between to give it a little bit of a difference in that texture. It doesn't just give a difference in texture, it gives a difference in the color as well. So I'm going to go all the way around it and start filling the tree and make it look a little bit more natural. And there we go. All the leaves are put in. You've got a nice little canopy for a tree. You can have some lanterns and hang them up on here. You can do whatever you'd like. It's not anything special, but it does look like a tree. It adds to the aesthetics around it, and it has a nice little natural look that looks much different than the naturally spawned trees. Not a bad thing to have around your house or in your village. Okay, I'm calling an audible. I think I want to show the other small tree using birch wood. Now this is a tree that I've been making for a very long time as a custom tree. Easy to make. You just take you take as many of these birch fence posts that you want, start taking them out, and then you start to just pull a few out like this. You don't want to do too much or too many of them, and you don't want to pull them out too much either, or too far out, because then it'll start to make the canopy a little bit too wide and make it uneven. And then you take a nice bright leaf like the oak leaf, and you start putting it around just the tops and sides of the tree and leave all of the rest of it barren. And there you go. Again, nothing too special, nothing too fancy, but once again, we've hit the criteria for a tree. It looks like a tree, it fits the natural environment, and again, it's different than all the naturally generated trees in Minecraft. A little baby birch tree. Next up, why don't we go ahead and do a couple of simple trees. These again is the category of trees that I just think are simple to make. They're just very tall and just one trunk long, and then just build the leaves around it. So let me show you what I mean by that. I'm going to make one out of jungle wood and one out of spruce wood, because again, spruce is probably my favorite tree, so we're going to use that a lot. The jungle wood is first though, so here we go. Just going up simple with the wood, not doing anything special with it. That's it. That's all I want. That's what I want it to look like. Finished. Next, we're going to have to pick some leaves. I brought some azalea leaves with me, as well as some birch leaves. So we're going to use some birch leaves to accent this jungle wood a little bit. We're going to first start by going all the way up the side and make sure that every single one of these is covered all the way up. Once you have all 4 sides covered, we're going to put a 2 or 3 up top of it. That's all depends on what you want to do. I think for this one we're going to go with 2 actually. And then honestly, everybody, from here, it's just start to place things wherever you want. We're gonna start by filling the edges here a little bit. We don't wanna go all the way to the top, and we don't need to make it symmetrical to the other sides. So we don't wanna miss little empty spots like that, but we also don't have to keep it up exactly the same level as the other sides have gone. So we're gonna start this one a little bit higher, and then we're gonna end it a little bit higher as the one to the right of us here. Once those edges are all filled in, we're going to just start putting things in the middle. Now that we have a three layer field here, we can start, we have a middle, so we want to fill the middle of it with a few more leaves. And then once we have all the middle filled up, we kind of want to take a step back and see what it looks like. Not bad, right? I mean, again, it looks like a tree. It looks different than anything else you generate in here, but it doesn't quite look like what I want it to look like. I want to add a few more bushes just randomly in little spots, just because we can, because trees don't always grow perfectly the same. Maybe sometimes there's a branch that gets a little bit extra sun over this direction, or maybe there's a little bit over here, or hey, maybe somebody broke some branches, right? So we're going to add a little bit of that on our tree here. I want to add a little bit on this one as well, since we kind of bulked up every other side. And boom, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm happy with that. And look, the rain is too. It's gonna water our brand new simple tree. Let's go ahead and put the spruce simple tree right next to the jungle one so we can compare them. We're gonna make this one a little bit taller just to kind of do a little bit different thing, and we're gonna stick to the spruce theme, sorry, and we're going to go ahead and use the spruce leaves. Once again, just like the other one, let's fill in all of the sides first. Okay, all four sides are filled in, and we're going to go ahead and plop a few up top there, and then start to finish the edges. Now for this one, because it is so tall, and I probably went in excess with how tall it went, I'm going to make it really uneven where everything kind of gets filled in. I'm going to make it really show that this tree is very, very large and has leaves coming out from every single part of its trunk. I am going to have some kind of method to my madness here. I'm going to try to stick to the middle and fill the middle as much as I can and make it thicker than the bottom or the top so that it still has kind of that diamond shape to it. Okay, not bad. I actually really like it. I really like the way that turned out, because once I made it a little bit too big, I thought it's going to look a little strange, but I think it turned out pretty well. And as a matter of fact, one thing I might change is I think I'm going to go ahead and give it a little bit more wood at the bottom so that it looks like it's actually holding it. That's much better. Glowstone inside of your tree surrounded by leaves. Keep that in mind for all of your tree ideas. I'm going to make two very different kind of big trees. The first one is going to be a big canopy tree, so it's going to have a lot of big branches that reach out all over the place. Make sure as you're taking these large branches and you're starting to take them away from this central point where they all kind of start going their own direction, you make them do different things. So like this one over here goes down a little bit, this one just comes a little bit up. So now that we have kind of the skeleton work, we're going to start filling it with leaves. For this tree, I'm going to go with oak and azalea leaves. I'm just going to surround every single one of these stripped spruce wood limbs that we have with leaves to start out with, and then we're going to take a step back and look at where we need to place a little bit more, because the idea of this kind of tree is that it creates multiple areas where there's kind of a little bit of a canopy, a little bit of an umbrella of leaves that kind of covers the bottom of the ground, essentially. Now that we're at the top of the tree, we want to again keep in mind our golden rule for this tree: canopy, canopy, canopy. We'll add a little bit of a trunk here at the bottom to give the tree a little bit more of a base and make it look like it's actually sturdier. And then after that, I think we are done with this tree. I'm very happy with the way it turned out. Not bad for making a tree just on the fly like that. This is one of the large trees I like to make. Again, the idea of it is that it just creates a canopy so that when you're in a village or you put it outside of a cool house or something you've built, that it has something to fill the sky with. And so you can go underneath of this and you can see how the canopy covers you from the rain, snow, and that's the point of these kind of trees, is just to build an umbrella above you. Some of my favorite trees are willow trees, like the weeping willows. They're really, really cool. So we're going to make that one next. I'm going to show you how I use stairs and slabs to give it that curvature and that mystique look that a lot of those weeping willows have as a characteristic. So let's get started. We'll start by simply placing a bunch of slabs and stairs down and start to create a trunk. It doesn't have to be anything special. You just have to make it kind of look a little bit eerie and creepy and and give it a lot of little twists and turns, which means that we're going to have to come out a little bit on, like, over here. We'll just give it a little spot to come and twist itself out. Now, a lot of this is just random. I'm just randomly placing blocks. I know that that's a scary thing for a lot of builders that's starting off fresh, but honestly, it's not something that you really need to learn how to do. You just got to be happy with where you happen to have placed something and move on. That's the best advice I can give you for randomly placing blocks. But as I'm talking just about nonsense, you can see how this tree, or this weeping willow, is kind of starting to take shape. It's starting to give that, the classic look that we kind of got to know of a weeping willow. It doesn't just go up like a normal tree trunk, it starts to grow up and twist a little bit. The bottom here still looks a little bit too weak, so we're going to add a few more little wood pieces all over the place to give it a little bit more strength. And then after that, we can start making some branches. Although this is all made out of spruce, I want to give the branches a little different kind of look so that it doesn't look like it's as old and has grown as long as the rest of the tree has. So I'm going to just start out from the top of the tree trunk that we built, twisting all the way up, and start making a bunch of different trees coming out in every direction. And honestly, I don't really want to miss a spot. For the most part, we just want to make sure that they come all over the place, and we have a lot of spots that we get to put a bunch of leaves on. So let's fill this up with some fence posts. You know what? Now that I'm starting to make this, I kind of realized this is a little bit too much continuity. Let's start taking some of these up, and let's make them, let's stick to the twisty theme. Let's make them come out a little crazy. Let's have them go up and down. And what is this? What was I thinking? What was I thinking? I like the way the branches go all over the place. I'm pretty happy with the twists and turns of the trunk. So let's get started by putting our birch leaves and azalea leaves all over the top of this. I love that there's a thunderstorm going on as I'm making a tree. I don't know what it is about it, it makes it feel like I'm gardening. Now you want to make sure that the top of the willow tree is covered, because willows do have a pretty thick canopy where sunlight doesn't really come through. So if we need to make extra branches to come out to make it look more realistic, like it is actually coming out further, then that's what we gotta do. Custom trees is all about improvising. You gotta keep trying to find a way to make it look more realistic, and the more you build the custom tree, the more you want to start changing things, because as you add things to the thunder, as you add things to the tree itself changes, and your idea of it changes a little bit with it. So don't be afraid to divert away from the original plan and start getting creative and making something different on the fly. Remember, it's a weeping willow, so it's got to have leaves coming down, dripping low. So we want to add a bunch of leaves that do that from the branches that kind of come and weep. They just weep. They just fall down and they get tired and sad and they weep. For the most part, I like to leave the branches underneath exposed, just because when you get underneath of a weeping willow, if you've ever been underneath one, you can see all the branches exposed where all the leaves kind of stretch out and start to hang low. It's not the best I've ever made, it's not the worst I've ever made either. And as a matter of fact, if we really wanted to, we could add a little bit of extra stuff because it is a weeping willow. So let's go ahead and put some vines on it to give it a little bit extra touch. Because once these vines start to grow all over the place, they're going to drop down and hit all the way to the ground, giving it an even more special effect. So if you really want to go with the extra mile on a weeping willow, you got to do that. If you're impatient and you don't want to wait for the vines to grow, just go ahead and put a block down. Make sure that your vines are attached to the tree somehow through the leaves up top, and then once you're done expanding or pulling down however many vines you want, you can just start breaking all those blocks and it should all stay connected. I'm going to do that all the way around the tree. There it is, a custom weeping willow tree. We went and made it twist and turn, and we gave it a bunch of cool branches up as a canopy, and then made it drop down and weep like a weeping willow does and it's known for. That's it for this episode of Poseidon How To. Just wanted to show you how to make a bunch of these custom trees. My simple trees that just go up into the sky and just surround them with a bunch of leaves, and you can put a bunch of glowstones in them. My small trees, which are really just made out of these little fence posts, and you just surround them with more leaves, and you give them a little bit of a shape to make them into a tree. And then of course my large trees, which have the purpose of them is a large canopy, so that when it rains and storms you can hide underneath of something. Okay everybody, thanks for tuning in. I hope that I inspired you to make some kind of custom tree of your own, or maybe even copy one of these. I don't even care. Do whatever you'd like. I just want everybody to get out there and get creative with their builds. Thanks for tuning in. Like, subscribe, and see you next time. Bye bye.